we're live. So thanks, Joe, for coming on to the podcast here. This is, for people who don't know, this is Joe, who have a YouTube channel called China Cycling, and I came across you, Joe, last year when I was getting my feet wet on Chinese carbon OEM product stuff with the Cookie Man sagas, and I came across your channel and I was like, oh, this is all interesting stuff. And so let's hear about you, Joe. You're living in China. You're an expat. You have a Chinese lady and you got Chinese children, and you're teaching English there, and you're cycling not like me. And so how did you end up in China? You're from England originally, yeah?
Yeah. So originally from England, and back in England, I wasn't even a cyclist, but I've been in China for like 10 years now, whatever.
Wow.
So back in England, I was a car guy and loved taking cars apart, putting them back together, all that stuff. But when I came to China, no Chinese driving license. So one of my other expats friends, he got me into bikes.
Yeah.
And so like that was the closest thing, you can take them apart, you can put them back together. It's got wheels and all that stuff. But so he got me into bikes, and I was hooked. And one thing about it, because I got into bikes like in China, not in the West, it meant I didn't have the mentality that maybe lots of riders in the West have, that like all of these top brands are on this pedestal, and you've got to believe in the shrine of exactly. We'll go for that. Yeah. And it wasn't about what you're riding, on the cafe ride or whatever. It wasn't about what you're wearing. It was just about riding a bike. It was a lot more pure or whatever. And so came to China, got more and more into cycling, and then realized the Chinese equivalent of like eBay or whatever is called Taobao.
Yes.
And on there, it's like eBay on steroids. There's more of everything, but for better and worse as well. Like there's more of the fake stuff.
Yeah.
There's more of the cheap legit stuff, and then there's more of, and then you start getting to the dirty dark corners of like the stuff that apparently comes out the same factories as the big brand stuff. That's when they're super cheap. And so I start going down this rabbit hole, and then like I say, I don't really have the perspective of what is and isn't available in the West.
Yes.
But then as soon as I start going on websites like and YouTube and stuff, you see that it's a totally different world, and you're like, huh. So this is interesting. And then, so I start sharing with my friends who I know who cycle back home. Yeah. I start sharing with them some of this stuff that you find over here. And their minds are being blown. They're like, what? Like, so I'm going to say we'll say there's like 3 different kinds of products that come out of China. First of all, you get like just your trash. Like it's just made to be as cheap as it can.
Yes.
And it's just, it's not very good. Every country has trash. I'm not saying it's because it's Chinese or anything. It's just trash. Number 2, we'll say we've got like your fake stuff or your knockoff stuff. They're trying to sell it off as the real thing. Like a zip wheel with Novatec hubs in it. You're like, hey, something's not quite right there.
Yeah. And
then, but then I'll go for number 3, which is like your original product Chinese stuff that no one's ever heard of in the West, or not really heard of in the West. And for example, I'll just go for the static trainers, for turbo trainers, like the Gravatt by a company called Magine. Like that was my first video that I did, because I saw that and it looked really good, and it was like a third of the price of a Wahoo kicker, and it looked as good as, or if not better than, a Wahoo kicker. So I thought, maybe this is something people want to see. So I made a video comparing the Magine Gravatt trainer to a first gen Wahoo kicker, and the Magine was like quieter, it was more accurate, and it was a third of the price.
Wow.
And so that video started to get some interest and stuff. And when that video started to get interest, I was like, okay, so people are interested in seeing this stuff. So then I started to go more in the direction of trying to find this stuff that people in the West maybe don't know exists.
Yes.
And just trying to show it to people, and people get a kick out of it. So
yeah, right. Yeah, you've done well, man. It's YouTube's a whole nother world as well. It's almost, you had 3 worlds. You have social media, you have China, and you have the Western world. It's like all 3 different worlds.
Yes, and so like I say, I got into cycling like in this bubble of existence. Like I guess most people, when they start cycling in the West, they join the local group ride or whatever, and they get information from there. But for me, I had none of that. So I'm just going on YouTube. And of course, anyone who searches for bike stuff on YouTube, within a few days you're going to get a recommendation of a video from a guy called Durianrider, and you go, oh, okay, I'll watch this guy's videos. Yeah. And so that was like it must have been like 5-6 years ago, whatever. Like I'm like, I'll start watching some Durianrider videos, and then I start seeing from your angle that the difference that exists between the Western like marketing, drinking the Kool-Aid, like whatever vision you want to call that of a world vision, and what I had. And so so going through Durianrider education of what's legit and what's not legit. Gave me more inspiration to kind of look for these differences.
Yeah, it's amazing that how we can educate each other, just from YouTube, social media. It's nuts. It's just, we live in such an amazing world right now. The speed of information, it's so cool. It's so cool.
It's crazy.
We can learn so much from people so quickly.
Yeah, it's crazy. But still, like, all of the big marketing departments of the big companies, and I'm not here to bash any big companies or whatever. Like, everyone who knows me knows I ride a Specialized too. I think you ride a Specialized. I ride anything, so I'm not here. I'm not here to bash anyone. But yeah, their marketing departments are just crazy. Like,
I think Specialized have the best marketing on. They've even, I remember buying their tires back in 1994, and I think they've had the best marketing every day since then. Like, they know how to engage emotion, and they do put out some good product. They put out some shit product as well, but they always looking for the edges and stuff like that. But I think now in 2020, it's like the bikes were so good 5 years ago. Now they're sort of getting worse. Like, it's just, it's like they've gotten so good. Like, you can't go better, you just have to go different. And it's interesting stuff. What so a bit about you. So you're living in China, and I always call it Xiamen, that town you're living in. But it's Xiamen.
Yeah, so I'm sure some people out there will criticize my Chinese pronunciation, but yeah, it's pronounced Xiamen, like Xiamen.
Because you speak fluent Mandarin now, don't you?
I'd
much?
say it's fluent. Like, like have to be modest, and also the thing about China is there are so many dialects and accents and stuff. Like, you can be fluent in a city, and then you go like 100 kilometers to another city, and you don't understand anyone, and no one understands you. So it's pretty crazy.
And they're all speaking Mandarin.
So you're supposed to have like standard Mandarin, which kids are all taught in school these days. But back in the day, like especially like Cultural Revolution or before Cultural Revolution times, everyone was speaking their own dialects. So when I'm cycling out in the countryside and I go to a small like shop that's run by some 70-year-old dude, and I'm trying to buy some water, like sometimes I go from being fluent in Chinese to being like back to basics, like using your fingers to try to buy stuff. So
wow.
The Chinese in general, like super friendly.
Aren't they? Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah. Like when I'm riding out in the countryside, and again I go to a shop, like I just said, like usually the boss, he'll ask me like, "Wow, are you a real foreigner?" Like, he's probably never seen a foreigner. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a real foreigner." He's like, "Wow,
that's crazy."
He's like, "You're the first foreigner to ever come to my shop. Like, sit down, like drink some water."
Yeah,
like,
that's the bicycle life, isn't it?
Definitely get to meet some cool people.
The bike is the transformation tool. It's insane, man, and I can't wait to go to China. I'm keen to come over there and ride some of those mountains, and maybe hopefully visit some of the factories and do some vids. It's
like down here in Xiamen, it's definitely like the capital for carbon in China.
Really? Yeah, I see a lot of factories there. A lot of factories. There's like wind space. So they got a factory there, or.
Yep. That was the first factory I went in.
Yeah, wow. And so they make a lot of frames for themselves or other brands, or I guess
both.
You can't really talk about that too much, maybe. But yeah.
I can. Most of it you can talk about, like.
Yeah, I guess.
So they do. They do their own frames, but they also do OEM stuff.
Yeah, well, so OEM, for people who don't know, is a original equipment manufacturer. So a company in China, a factory where they'll make frames for various other brands like Specialized or Trek or Canyon or whoever, and then they'll ship that to often Taiwan or whatever for painting assembly because of less punitive tariffs, I'm pretty sure. And then generally the bikes might be made in China, the frame, but then they'll have the made in Taiwan sticker because all the parts and paint and stickers were put on there. So do you find that to be true?
Yeah. So it depends on the brand, like you say. Some brands try to hide it a lot better than other brands do. Yeah. I think, again, I don't like I don't really like it. So it's really ironic. My channel is called China Cycling, but I actually hate pigeonholing like a company or a product by where it's from. But I'm gonna say like I think the Italian companies are probably the worst for trying to hide that they're from China. Like, and I'm sure there are some Italian brands who don't, but in my opinion, like. Yeah, Pinarello and Villa, like they're two of the worst for trying to hide where their stuff comes from.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I have a few debates with a few riders out there. Like, my F12 was made in Italy, and I was like, well, unless there's a village in Italy, I don't know if it's in China. But I guess it doesn't matter because they're quality. They're making good bikes. The Chinese are making incredible bikes. I would say. What percent would you say of the top-end carbon frames are now made in China, like originally from China and shipped maybe to Taiwan for assembly, etc.?
I'd say like the frame actually made in China, top-end bikes, I'd say above 80%, probably closer to 90%.
I heard the CEO from Factor, I'm not sure if you saw that video. Did you see that video Cycling Maven put up? I think it was Cycling Maven put it up. Because I went to his channel.
Interview with Rob, I think the guy's name
Rob, he was a pretty cool guy. Like, but I think the video's been taken down. I'll have to ask Mark what the deal is. But I'm pretty sure he said something like 99% or 98% coming out of China now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, like and the Factor factory is also in Xiamen, like super close to here.
Yeah, and then they ship to Taiwan for assembly and less taxes or something, I hear.
Yep.
That's what I'm hearing. But yeah, they're making some amazing product out there. It is. I just find this whole, being a bike geek like yourself, just I find it just really interesting how it's so hidden, and just some of the people's reactions when they find out their bike's made in China, they're almost like ashamed, but it's not to be ashamed. I mean, there was a big markup there, but there's still quality product.
Yeah, and it even goes deeper than that. So, like, you'll bring it out with someone, and then, okay, they'll finally research it, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, my frame is made in China, but it was designed by an Italian guy. But also, lots of the Italian, and again, I'm not just picking on the Italian guys, it's just it's the example I know the best for reasons I can't say, but it's the example I know the best. Lots of these companies, like the engineers in the companies, they go to the Chinese factories and ask the engineers in the Chinese factories for advice. Like,
that's right.
They're like, oh, this is what we want to do. Can we do it? And the Chinese engineers will go, well, why don't you do it like this instead? This is a better way of doing it. And they'll be like, oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, even the guy who thinks, oh yeah, my Italian bike is made in China, but it was designed in Italy. Again, probably not. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Nah. Yeah.
Who cares where your bike's made or who designed it? As long as it's the best bike you can get for your money. Yeah, exactly.
And as long as you like it and it does its job for you. That's true, yeah. I mean, the Chinese, the Asian carbon is just, they got such a deep level of experience. Fast Sports, Fast Sports?
Yeah.
They sent me out some wheels recently, and they were amazing. I mean, I've got Envies, I've got Zips and Lightweights and Biolos and a lot of wheels, Shimano, etc. And these Fast Sports, they roll so nice, they're amazing. And the braking surface as well, it's got those little grooves in it. It worked incredible. So I was really, really impressed. I was like, man, once you ride some of this product, you never almost ride brand name stuff again, because you'd be like, why would I pay so much money, for that?
It's mental. Like you say, Fast Sports, they're doing good wheels. Like I put a review up like 2 weeks ago, whatever, of a Windspace pair of wheels with like carbon spokes and carbon rims, but they're not bonded like the lightweight ones are. They're actually, you can still adjust them and take them off and stuff.
That's good.
And yeah, like you say, when you see it or when you hear of it, you're like, this can't be good. But if you get on it with zero prejudice and ride it, you're like, this is crazy. Like you say.
Yeah.
I think we've both ridden a fair share of bikes from every country's manufacturers, and it's as good as or as better than any of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. I got a brand new Specialized S-Works Epic 2 years ago, and it was just I was going to sneeze for a second. Hang on. The bike's making me sneeze. Bit of carbon dust. Actually, I think it's gone. So I got this brand new
Epic.
Epic.
Coronavirus, man.
Corona's come to Adelaide.
It's gone through the computer.
What was that drink bottle you just had then? Was that?
It's a Namid Sport.
Yeah, I thought it was the same one I had. I was going to say that'd be trippy. No, it wasn't. I just saw that corner of my eye. It's what was I saying? Yeah, so I bought this Specialized Epic S-Works, you know, and I've been a big fan of the Epic. I've had my first one I got in 2003, and so and then I got this new Epic for us. It's gonna be a ripper, and I rode it, and I was like, suspension the first day just blew out. Sent back almost 4 or 5 times, and Specialized has been great. It keeps sending me out new shocks and fixing it, but the problems are still there. And so just and this is like a $12,500 retail bike, and so just understanding that, you know, this is the biggest company out there in terms of marketing and PR and, you know, testing and stuff like that, but they've just produced such a dud bike, you know, like absolute dud. Yeah, and talking with other riders as well who own the same bike, and on the forums, people just like, this is just dud. So it just goes to show that the latest isn't the greatest. So that changed my whole reality, that Specialized S-Works Epic, you know, all the marketing hype, this is the fastest cross-country bike ever. And I just blindly believed that because I'd had such a good run with Specialized product before. So yeah, this is going to rip. I remember riding it, I was like, suspension, what's going on? I was going to put some air in it. Put air in it, still dud. And then, so yeah, but that just blew my confidence out the water of like, marketing does not mean anything in 2020. It doesn't mean, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, like, so Specialized, they got a great design team as well as a marketing team, like, respect. But their design team is literally the other side of the world to their factories.
Yeah.
And so you can send a few guys over to be on the ground or whatever, but the back and forth is going to be so delayed. The communication is not going to be good. Like, they're speaking different languages, literally. Yeah. So, but these Chinese companies, the thing I always say to people, like, the reason the Chinese brands are so good is either they have their own factory or the relationship they have with the factory. Like, you know, their kids are going to school with the kids of the factory's boss. Like, so the relationships are just on another level.
That's true.
And in business, everything's about relationship. You know, like
100%.
The guy in the factory, he's got to put his, you know, he's got to choose which workers go on the best shifts or which shift gets to make which bike. You know, the guy who he's best friends with and goes drinking with, he's going to be like, yo, put my bikes on the best shift. Yeah. The guy who's halfway around the world and comes over every so often to check on him is going to be like, whatever, just make it good enough is all right.
Yeah, that's so true. It is. I think the future is China. My perception is China's going to sell more factory direct to people. The big brands will get tanked out, and then China will just create their own brands and just get rid. They'll flick Trek and Specialized, etc. I reckon that'll happen eventually. Once public get wind of how much markup is in some of these bikes and stuff like that. I think that will change, especially with pro sport, and it's going towards more bike packing and gravel racing and things like that. And I think this year, unfortunately, my hunch is the Tour de France and the Giro will be cancelled because of Corona. That's my little my hunch. I hope it doesn't. I hope it's not true, but it just feels like that with the media right now. It's going crazy in Australia. You know, like you walk into a supermarket, all the toilet paper's gone every time. It's literally nuts. People are just, you know, the waves hitting us, the hype, and that
was like here 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, well,
it was pretty funny. So coronavirus hit here, and then a bunch of people in Japan and Korea were like selling face masks to people in China, like at raised prices. Yeah, but now they sold all the masks in like Korea and Japan, and now coronavirus hit those places, and they don't have any masks for themselves. So it's all and now in China, people are selling them back to them at even more than they sold originally. So it's all crazy. It's all going a bit weird. But yeah, I think you're right about the tour being cancelled.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen.
But we'll see.
But I think
I hope so too.
And that will just cause a massive finance loss for a lot of the brands, because the tour is just like the launching product of product. You know, it's a launch date. The new Tarmac's coming out. I heard the new Duracer's coming out. Yep. And so just these new bikes coming out. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the bike industry. Let's talk about living in China. So what's it like with visas and stuff? Like, how long is it? 30-day visa or 90-day or for English?
So it depends what you're doing. So in the past I was doing English teaching, like you said. These days I'm not doing that anymore. But so because I've been in China for 5 years, if you're in China for like 5 years or above, you can apply for like permanent residence, which is essentially like a Chinese green card or whatever.
Yeah. That's cool.
But usually usually if you're working here, like however long your contract is however long a visa they'll give you. And usually you just need to be like have a bachelor's degree or above, and some experience in whatever field you want to go into. So most expats come to China to do English teaching. I did that for a long time too. I think it's a great way to see the country, and like you get so much off time. On average, you're just teaching for like 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week. So if you want to get into shape and do a real training, like hardcore 40-hour a week on the bike, it's a good gig.
Yeah, well, where would you recommend where you're living now?
Yeah, I'd definitely say stay near the coast just for the better air quality, because that's the one thing about China. The air quality is not good in general.
Yeah, well, so you got like how far are you from the beach right now?
Like I've got a beach about 10 kilometers away.
And what about mountain climb?
I literally got a mountain. If it wasn't pitch black behind me, you'd be able to see it. Like I've got a really nice climb, a whole mountain range just out my back window. So
how far from your front door to the start of the climb is it, you reckon, kilometer wise?
If I want to go to the big mountains, probably like less than 10K. But there's a small like 300-meter climb, like less than a K away.
Oh yeah, cool, very good.
Yeah.
So that's a good spot. It's a good warm up to get to the climb and warm up to the beach. And traffic?
Yeah.
Chaos?
Yeah, I'd say chaos, but the system works, but you have to get into the thinking of how it works. Like I'm not saying better or worse, but it's probably worse. Different. If I am saying. Yeah, we'll go for different. That's a good one. But yeah, like when most people are driving or riding in China, you don't pay attention to what's behind you. Like that's not your problem. That's right. If I'm changing lanes, you don't look in the mirror. So the advantage is that if I'm riding or whatever, then I don't have to look behind me either, and I only have to look forwards. So you have twice the attention to look forwards to see when someone cuts across your lane.
Same in Thailand.
Yeah. But here, where I am in Xiamen, actually, the roads aren't set up very well for bikes, which is actually how I ended up breaking my leg.
Yeah, tell us about that. You had when was that? That time goes quick.
Yeah, like September, last September. Yeah.
So what happened? Yeah. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so they have like storm drains that go across the road, but it's kind of like a cattle grid. But how a cattle grid would have like horizontal gaps, the gaps on this were vertical. Oof. And like, I measured it afterwards with my lawyer, and like 4-centimeter gaps between the little metal bars, which 23 mil, 25 mil, 28 mil tires, gravel like cyclocross tires, you're still going in there. But so what happened? I'm riding along, and one of them caught my front wheel, and I buckarooed off, and like I was doing kind of like an extended endo for a while just on the front wheel, and then hit the dirt, and I was all right, like a bit shocked, but just some road rash. But then they use water trucks here, like giant trucks full of water for like watering flower beds when there's no rain and stuff. I happened to fall just underneath a parked water truck, but literally the same second that I fell under it, it set off and rode onto my foot.
That's crazy.
Like crushing my leg under it.
That's crazy. Oh man.
And so man, like I mean, you can say it's bad luck, but if it was my head, I'd be dead.
Good luck and bad luck.
I feel lucky. But he hears me screaming and shouting as you would, and luckily. This is why you want to be fluent in Chinese, because I shout in Chinese like reverse, reverse, reverse. Yeah. And like within 5 seconds he reverses and gets off me. But those 5 seconds felt like a very long time. And literally I'm looking at the whole truck, and the rear wheel of the truck is just on my foot. Like not on the ground at all. And I can see on the side of the truck that it says like maximum capacity, like 20,000 liters. So in that 5 seconds, I'm doing the math like, oh, that's about 20 tons. It's got 4 wheels. So I got about 5 tons. Yeah. And these 5 seconds were very long. But yeah, he gets off my leg, and it's one of those things. People always say, your leg's broken, or a bone's broken when it's broken because it hurts so much. Yeah. I actually wasn't sure it was broken. Like it didn't hurt as much as I thought it would.
Probably adrenaline.
Yeah, so that's just it. So I was in super adrenaline shock, and suddenly I real it's pitch black, like it was nighttime, and suddenly I'm starting to think that the floor looks very comfortable, and I just want to go to sleep. But then I'm like, okay, probably not the best idea. So yeah, that the roads, to answer your original question, you definitely have to
Pay
be
attention.
careful. Like,
Pay
yeah,
attention.
like there'll be lampposts in the middle of the road sometimes. Just poor planning, basically. Like,
Yeah, like if you're in the Western mindset, you'll hit them because you won't be looking for them.
yeah.
Head up. I remember one time I was in Thailand with a friend called Tamo. He's from Estonia, and we're riding along the road there, the back of a pack. We're going to Dointonon, and he kept looking at me as he's talking. And he was at the time a pretty new cyclist. And I was about to say to him, "Hey, just keep your eyes at the road and just angle your mouth at me, And I was waiting for him to finish talking, and this chicken ran out in the road, and I saw it coming. So I hit the brakes. Everyone hit the brakes, but Tamo didn't. And he was a sort of big dude, and he just smashed in the rider in front, and then just like we're doing maybe 40 or 50k an hour, hooking along, and then he just hits the ground, busts his collarbone. And I was just about to tell him, "Hey, look forward," But now I've learned I interrupt people. Say, "Hey, I'll just hit him. I'll just blank cold cut him off and say, "Hey, look ahead, man, look ahead." But yeah, so you just pay. You just didn't see that? I mean, yeah, you just got to pay attention, don't you? Just got to pay attention.
Yeah, so like that storm drain is actually on my commute, and I'd only been here for like a month or whatever. And so the first time I'm riding down that road, I see it and I bunny hop it.
Yeah.
And then the next day I bunny hop it as well, bunny hop it. But then one day you're like, oh, I wonder if I can just go over it at an angle.
Yeah.
So I started just going over it at an angle, so your tires don't go in the grill.
Yeah.
And that was fine. And then I started going, well, what if I just go over it just normally? Will it actually get stuck? And it wasn't getting stuck. So you get more and more confident. And then one day you go in at slightly the wrong angle or whatever, and it just gets you.
But I hit one of those drains.
When I went back, when I went back after the fact, what it was, so the drain actually stretches across the whole road, and most of it is your wheel can't get stuck in just because the way the pieces of metal are arranged.
Smart,
but the like 50 centimeter strip where I was, they'd replaced it with a different type of drain, or they'd put it upside down or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could catch my wheel.
That's an example. Like road conditions can just change one day from the next.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I hit a storm drain like that when I was a bicycle courier back in 1998. Come around a corner and there was a new drain. And it had the slats the wrong way, and my front wheel just got sucked in, and I just got bucked over the bars and slammed face first into the ground. And did some bit of dental chipping. But learned my lesson. Always pay attention and don't think the road's going to be the same every day. It's cycling teaches us a lot of lessons. Number one, pay attention in life. And wear a helmet,
especially when stuff's mundane, like.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. It was just my commute, and you do it again and again and again.
Yep.
So you just start switching off. You don't think about it. Yeah. And I think that's like you say. That's like life. Every day you do the same job. You do the same routine. You don't think about it, and before you know, you're 50 or 60 years old or whatever. Yep. So.
It's true, man. It's so true. Probably one of the worst crashes I ever had on the bike was when I worked at a bike shop back in 2003 called Bicycle Express, and it was a great place to work at back in the day. And I remember just riding out the front door of the bike shop on my lunch break, going to go to the fruit market, get some bananas or whatever, or some melon, and they'd done some footpath work on the weekend, and there was this gap in the footpath, and I'd done this like hundreds of times, and so I just hooked this corner. And my front wheel just got in the gap, and I just got bucked and slammed my face and ribs onto the gutter. And I was like, "What the heck happened?" And my front wheel was like still, it was crazy. So you just never know when you're going to hit the deck. Always wear a helmet, wear gloves, and have insurance if you're overseas. So you have insurance, I assume.
Yeah. Had insurance, but. So speaking of Cookie Man, I don't know if you've been keeping up with his
people sent me. He's had
shenanigans.
some issues with his insurance in the US after that big crash last year, and
which is crazy.
Yeah, that's the USA. It's
I don't want to go political, but that's mind blowing.
Yeah, it is a crazy world. It's like it's crazy. But if you're a homeless person in the USA, you'd be covered for that, wouldn't you? because they're not going to just go dump in the street. It's almost like you want to be homeless if you want to be a bike racer. At least you'll be covered that way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if Cookie Man didn't have any money, or if his mum wasn't loaded like she is, then he would be, wouldn't have to pay. But because he's got money and his mum's got money, then he'll have to fight it. But if you're just homeless, the hospital just has to waive that because you got no money. So, yeah, it's an interesting reality out there. What's those... I can see I can see some zip wheels in the background there. Are they copies or legit or?
So the bottom one's legit.
So
the top one is not legit.
Yeah,
the top one was the bottom one's just a 30. It's the aluminium one.
Oh yeah, this is 30. Yeah.
Yeah, the top one, the 808, was the very first like fake Chinese bike thing I got.
Yeah.
And a friend brought it for me. And so a Chinese friend, he was also into cycling. Yeah. And it was my birthday. And he said, I got you a gift. And and I see it, and I'm like, this was before I even knew there was fake stuff out there. And I'm like, you got me a zip wheel? Like what? Like, yeah. I knew he wasn't a very well-off guy. I'm like, how? Mine was blown. But again, I started to look closer. I'm like, I don't think zip wheels should come with Novatec hubs.
Yeah. Even though, in my opinion, the Novatec is a better hub than a zip hub. Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah, like even I got a couple pairs of zip wheels, and the rims I like, but the hubs, man, they're shocking. Like, I would never ever buy a bike that had zip wheels on it again. Like it was brand new. I wouldn't buy brand name stuff because I've just had bad experiences with the hubs of zip, and that's not just me. A lot of people do as well. Well, I can see another wheel in the background there. Is that another zip wheel? That sort of serrated rim. It's like a zip.
Yeah.
Style.
That's a China zip special.
Yeah, well.
I built, that was the first wheels I built it myself. And again, so yeah, these knockoff 454 style rims.
Yeah. Is it disc?
Not a disc.
It's a rim brake. Okay.
Yeah, there's the cassette still on there.
Oh, it's a cassette. Yeah. Disc. Okay.
Not.
To go right.
I bought those basically for the YouTube clickbait. So I saw them when the 454s were still pretty new.
Yeah.
I saw them on Taobao, which is like the Chinese eBay. Yeah. And I thought, this could be some kind of clickbait. I'll buy a set of these and build them up. But to be fair, they were a lot better than I thought. The braking surface on them especially, I really rate it. So.
That's the thing. You want obviously you want a safe hook B, but you want good braking surface. And that's the main thing. Like my lightweights, the braking surface is just horrendous, horrendous.
Like my stance on all the fake stuff, and there's no right stance, there's no wrong stance. It's just my stance. Is that I think as long as they're not trying to con people, like if they were actually like badged up as Zip and trying to rip people off of the money,
that's wrong.
Then that's wrong. And of course, people will say, "Oh, but they're stealing their intellectual property." Blah blah blah. You're right, but I'm guessing the same person who tries to lecture me about intellectual property, he goes on the Pirate Bay and torrents Breaking Bad or whatever every day. So
I think everyone's copying everyone these days anyway. But I think if you're selling, a counterfeit product at that's I don't agree with that. Like if you're trying to sell a Pinarello, Ginarello, well, they're all made in China, but a copy Pinarello as a Pinarello price, that's wrong.
I agree 100%. And because the main reason, so if we start talking about Chinese Oppo mold frames or whatever, and are they safe or whatever, and so the only safety that you really have with this stuff is that no brand wants a picture on the internet of their bike like in two pieces with their logo like split in two pieces. Bingo. And so if you're buying something that's unbranded, they've got nothing to fear because there's no logo on it. If you smash their bike, it doesn't hurt their reputation. And so, but if you have a brand, I know you've got your Pragma brand going on. Like the last thing you want to see is a I assume it won't happen, but the last thing you want to see is a Pragma on the internet in two pieces. Yeah. And so that gives you motivation to make sure your Pragmas are good quality.
Yeah,
but if you're buying something with
factory.
no brand on it, they don't have that motivation.
That's true.
And where going into counterfeit stuff, where that breaks that down is then you take out that trust, because if you're just putting anyone's logo on something and claiming it's legit.
Yeah, you don't know where.
Then if it breaks and they thought it was legit, then you're hurting the other brand's reputation. So
yeah, that's it. I think you should use your own brand. Use your own brand. Yeah, I'm just moving the cat here. Oh,
no worries.
Here we go. All right, here we are. But what's it like? What's it like? Oh, hang on, here we go. It's yeah, that's an interesting one, because I was like, you know, these Chinese bikes. People would ask me about them. You know, Harley, what do you think about them? I had no idea. I was just like, you know, like, I don't know. And I was always like, oh, you know, better to stick with the big brand. And then you see, you know, Merida has a big recall on the forks, or Specialized has a recall, Bianchi has a recall, Cannondale has a recall, and you're thinking, hang on, like, what's happening here is, and I talked to a few people in the industry who wish to be unnamed, and they, you know, were sales reps for big brands or worked at, you know, certain industry or distributor, and they were just saying that, you know, that, like, it's hard to really do quality control because they'll produce, you know, say 15,000 forks, and that's the, you know, that's Gen 1, and so it's basically the riders are the sort of guinea pigs for those, because they haven't been raced at the pro level, and you know, because often it's like race on Sunday, sell on Monday sort of thing, so the bikes hasn't really been thrashed hard because of fear of media embargoes, etc. So you often, when you buy a brand new, let's say like the new Specialized tarmac that's coming out, that's a brand new design. You know, we don't know how safe that fork is. You know, might pass QC, or it will have to pass QC, but we don't know what it's like in the real world, how durable it will be. Even Cervelo, did you see? You know, what's his name? Raul Lucia. Yeah. So he chopped up a Cervelo S5 recently, and just, you know, critiquing the fork design, just saying it's causing delamination when you turn the bars too much or whatever. I'm just like, that's crazy. So that's an example that it will pass QC, you know, pass quality control, but it won't pass real world control. You know, imagine that in 10 years' time, like, those forks in the market, like, they could be fouling left, right, and center.
I'm sure that, going back to the Cervelo thing, I'm guessing it was designed by a guy who's never ridden a bike.
Yes. Just, I call embarrassed.
Like, he was like, oh, I have to stop this from doing this. I'll do this. Like, but he didn't. He's never ridden a bike, so he doesn't know that when you crash, your handlebars hit the floor, and boom, it's going to smack that fork into the metal stop and just delaminate your head shift.
Oh my god! Oh man, it's crazy. Like, people, and you can sort of tell people this stuff, like, and they just think, you know, you're an idiot. What do you know? I even have conversations on Facebook Messenger. I see people sell on a bike or whatever, and they've got the uncut steerer with no spacer in it, and I'm like, man, your fork could fail. And they're like, do you want to buy the bike or not? And I'm like, you shouldn't sell that bike unless you get it checked out, man. And they're like, see ya, or they block you, or they leave the conversation. It's just like, man, I was just trying to help you out. Like, you got a product that can kill someone, man.
Yeah, people want to keep the blinders on. Yes. But like, going back to the Cervelo thing, and again, I'm not digging on Cervelo, like, but if a Chinese brand did that, like, it would be all over the internet. It would be like, oh, look, it's so stupid, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But Cervelo do it, and you just get one guy on the internet calling them out, who is Raul, who, like, credit to him for calling them out. Like, I think. And that's what you were saying about YouTube these days. I think people are starting to get more interested in it. Yeah. You know, you've got channels like yourself. You've got Hambini, who's always a good one. You've got Raul. I guess you've got China Cycling or whatever, who are, like, you know, showing people the other side.
Definitely.
But it's a numbers war, you know. And again, nothing against GCN, but they're coming up to like 2 million subscribers or something.
Yeah.
And I think all of the channels I just mentioned all together probably only have like 500,000 or whatever. So.
Yeah, GCN have a, you know, they obviously have a what's the word? You know, it's corporate style, and so they have to, you know, toe the line, and that's just how the wages are paid. And I totally understand that, and I think other people do. A lot of people understand it as well. You know, it's just and I think GCN's great having them out there. They do a lot of great videos on you know, how to fix a derailleur and stuff like that, and some new bike tech. But
agree.
It is interesting reading some of the comment section of how, you know, some of the new riders out there, just they take any marketing hype with hook, line, and sinker, and then you try and tell them the truth, and they get angry at you. It's hilarious.
Yeah, like.
It's funny like that. Human nature, we're funny like that. I mean, I respect people massively. If someone's going to take time out of their busy day to say, hey, Harley, you're doing it all wrong, mate. This is how you do it. I'm like, oh man, thanks so much. I'm not gonna say, hey, shut up. I'm just gonna be like, you know what, man, you cared. Like you stop what you're doing and you said, Harley, you're doing it do it this way, you'll get a better result. I'm like, man, thanks so much. So I just treat people how I want to be treated. And no, it's amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing. What so yeah, cost of living. Getting back to China again. Cost of living. How what's the cheapest rental we could get where you're staying? You reckon for someone who wants to do the budget Chinese experience? Is it an expensive city where you're at?
So prices in China in general like vary a lot, like from city to city. I'd say more than most Western countries in terms of the prices. Like back in the UK where I'm from, apart from London, like most other places are probably a very similar price. But in China, the price between cities is just astronomically different.
Wow.
Renting is a bit better, but for purchasing, the price difference is absolutely crazy. Like literally like 20 times price difference from one city to another to buy a house. 20 times.
All right, 20 times, man. That's insane.
So China is so mind-boggling because in obviously the cities where people are earning 20 times as much money to buy their 20 times as expensive houses, but they buy a bottle of Coke or they buy an iPhone or they buy a Specialized, it's the same price. Yeah. So you just got this super weird economy where in the rich cities, the people are as rich as people in the West, but in the poor cities, it's poor, obviously.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, but to go back to the original question, the city where I am, Xiamen, is probably like in the top 25% ish of expensive cities. So it's middle of the road ish. For rent, again, the more you pay, the bigger you get. But I've got an apartment going on here with 3 bedrooms, 130 square meters, and I pay like 3,000 yuan per month, which is about, what's that, like 300 pounds British or about $400-ish US.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but eating and drinking are a lot cheaper.
Wow.
In terms of living costs. Like
that's pretty good. 400 US a month, so about 100 US a week.
Yeah.
And what sort of lease do you have to have? 6 month, 12 month, 2 year, 1 month, or how does it work on average?
The least you can probably get is 3 months, and then the longer you go for, the better deal you can get, kind of thing.
So is it easy to get rentals? Yep. Is there a property shortage?
No, it's easy. So that's another super interesting thing about China is the housing market. Like loads of people buy houses here as investments. But what that does, it obviously pushes the prices of housing up, and then people who want to actually buy the house to live in it, they can't afford to. And so then those guys have to go and rent from the guys who bought the apartments as investments.
Yeah.
So that really adds to the wealth gap in China as well. Like the rich getting richer because they have a bunch of properties each that they can rent out, and then jacking up the prices. So people on lower incomes, they can't afford the housing, and so they have to rent. So,
interesting.
But in general, there's definitely enough houses to go around because real estate here is just crazy. Like the local government owns all the land, and they can just say, okay, this block here, this 1 square kilometer, we're going to sell it off as real estate. And if there's a village on there, if there's something on there, I'm sorry, you're getting relocated because I want to sell this land. And then that's one of the main ways that local Chinese governments make money is by selling land to real estate developers.
Wow. So no one owns the land but the government there.
Yep. No, only the government can own land. Like if you buy an apartment in China, you only own it for 70 years. After 70 years, it's no longer yours.
Whose is it? The government again?
Yeah, like... Yeah, so another interesting thing is the building probably won't last 70 years.
Yes.
And then not necessarily because of construction quality, just because they love knocking down old things and rebuilding it again.
Yeah, they do, man.
Again, I think it's a GDP thing, we've got to keep people in construction, got to keep people working. But you see like a shopping mall that's been open for like 5-10 years with housing apartments above it get knocked down and replaced with something bigger and shinier. And like I'm sure all that concrete and all that cement going into the air is not good, but
yeah,
that's the China we're living in.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think everyone should go to China to see how the world how the world works over there, where all the stuff comes from.
You can just sit at the side of the road and just watch, and it's just totally different to what you're used to. Like everything, like the way they run the electric cables down the road, the way they do the garbage or the rubbish collection or whatever. Everything's just totally different. So when I first got here, and to this day actually, like just walking outside, it's like watching a documentary.
Yeah.
Like, you learn something new. And even today, I've been here 11 years. Every day I see something I've never seen before.
Wow. That's crazy, man. It's like, yeah, it's the work ethic in China is pretty strong, yeah.
Definitely.
Wonder why it is so strong. All the rice.
I think it's all the carbs. Yeah, they're carved the F up, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the reason they work so hard is just because the pressure, like
Competition.
Competition, like the numbers game. You got to stick out. You got to work harder than the competition around you.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. That they just they don't mess around. I'm keen to go there sometime. What?
Definitely, it's eye opening.
And so, how's your YouTube channel going in terms of like, do you get many Chinese kids watching you or?
So I started the YouTube channel back when I was doing the English teaching thing.
Yeah.
And me and my wife had a business going on, and like I say, I'm like you. I'm a bike nerd, so I'd be teaching English, but in the back of my head, I'm just thinking about bikes and I wonder if I can get a 34 tooth cassette on this medium cage derailleur. Blah, blah. I'm gonna try after work, like all this stuff, And so it just came too much. I was like, nah, I've got to give in. I've got to just try and make this more full time. And so when I tried. I also do some consultation work with some Chinese brands, and some translation work, like helping them translate their manuals or whatever. And so I thought it got to the point where I could probably make the hop to doing it full time. Like had a bit of money saved up, and basically wanted to leave the air quality in the city where I had my previous business. So I made the jump down here to start doing like YouTube more full time. Full time YouTube on only like 18,000 subscribers. That's something you can probably only do in China, just because the living costs are so low. But literally, I'd been in this city for like 3 weeks when I broke my leg, and I was like, oh well, that was a good plan, wasn't it? Like I came here to make cycling videos, and now I can't ride a bike. But luckily, I managed to get a few extra gigs, like helping out Windspace, one of the brands here, helping them out with their social media stuff. That kept me putting food on the table, and I love those guys too. They got really, really good attitude or whatever. It's almost
good that happened. You had a bit of a break, pun intended, and it just gives you opportunity to network and reach out.
Yeah, definitely. And so what you're asking about, if any Chinese guys are watching the YouTube, so obviously YouTube is blocked in China, but some of the smart guys then to get around, like jump on VPN or whatever. But I've also started a second channel on like the Chinese equivalent of YouTube called Bilibili.
Bilibili.
And got it. Yeah, Bilibili. It's good, man.
Wow.
I think I saw some people on there illegally re-uploading some Durianrider videos.
Oh, that's cool.
The advertising money on Bilibili is like even worse than YouTube. It's probably like a tenth of YouTube. So
I'd be. It's nothing. It would make my day if someone's uploading my content and making money. I mean, to be honest, I don't care about it at all. People are welcome to upload my content, monetize it. I'm all about getting the message out there.
Yeah, go for it.
One dude uploaded one of the videos. It got like, I think it was over 30 million views. It was this potato fruits that look like sex things. And this is back in 2011, 2012 when YouTube was paying bank. And it got like 30 million views before YouTube took it off or whatever. And that's about 90 grand. And I sent the person a message, said, I don't know who you are, mate, but good on you and enjoy the money. Happy for you.
Yeah, I wonder where he is now, huh?
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that's the power of social media. So yeah, so Bilibili, I'd recommend smashing that hard.
Yeah. But again, so like we were saying before off camera, like I think the Westerners, they're really intrigued by this Chinese stuff, like that they've never heard of, whatever. But the Chinese guys, they're more intrigued by the Western stuff. So
yeah.
So on my Bilibili channel, like it's less about like Chinese bike tech because they're like they don't find that interesting, and it's more about showing them like how people ride in the West, or just trying to bring some knowledge
Yes,
from the
yes.
West through to them, like things like training and nutrition and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I'm no super coach. I've done a few small courses, and like anyone else, listen to lots of podcasts, watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah,
Blah
it's
blah
all
blah blah.
basic
blah.
stuff.
Everyone, well, yeah, but everyone watches a few videos and they think they're an expert, or whatever. But I don't claim to be an expert. But literally, because there's no YouTube in China, these guys just don't even have access to that. So even by taking everything you learn from these YouTube videos and just condensing it for them in Chinese, like they can get a lot of gains out of it. So
powerful,
that's more what my Chinese channel is about.
Yeah, man, for sure. If you ever want to do any videos, interview me for the Billy, I'm down, man.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Again, like I said, lots of your videos get re-uploaded and stuff, so
That's
I'm sure.
Good, man. And feel free to use any of my content, in your videos, whatever, man. Like if you Billy or YouTube or I don't care, man. Just put it out there, get it out there. I'm all for getting more bums on bikes and getting people on the rice and the good stuff. So that's
yeah.
What's that?
And that reminds me. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you're gonna say? I was gonna cut you off.
No, sorry. Well, you said getting more bums on bikes, and like you think, well, it's China, like they shouldn't have a problem with getting bums on bikes. But like what we think of everyone in China riding a bike, that China is pretty much dead. Like
really,
when even the 11 years I've been here, when I first came here, it was just bikes everywhere. Everyone's just riding their own bike, and it's like the old flying pigeon style bike.
Yeah.
Everyone was riding them. You go past a middle school or a high school and just like racks and like a sea of bikes. But now you go past a high school or a middle school, it's all like electric bikes, like the little e-scooter things.
Yeah, wow.
And amazing. Like no one really rides a bike for commuting these days. Like around 2 or 3 years ago, it came back a little bit when like the OFO bikes came out, like the public shared bikes that you can put whatever. That really took off for a bit, but then local governments didn't really like those. But now, because of China's history and how the working class was like built on riding bikes, now no one wants to be seen as working class. That's right. So no one wants to ride a bike. So it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. Like the bike that basically built this country or built this country's economy is now just seen as like, oh well, I don't want to be associated with that.
Low status item. That's nuts. A bit like
when I used to go to
dark skin or something.
Yeah, like when I used to go to business meetings or something, like before the business meeting, I'd be like, is there a place to park my bike, or can I bring my bike inside? And like instantly the person you're organizing the business meeting with, just like they assume you're useless or you must be really bad at your job, because why is he riding a bike?
Yeah.
Like if he was good at his job, he'd be driving a car. Like
that's right.
It's just totally different way of thinking.
It's smart but dumb.
It was funny when I was in my crash. I was on one of my Specialized LA, and it's got a few nice spots in it, like red E-tap or whatever. And the insurance guy came out, and he was like, well, I phoned him up first, and he was like, oh, a bike, just tell me how much it is, and we'll write the check. And I told him how much it is. And I guess US dollars, we're talking about around 4,000 US dollars. Yeah, 4,000 US dollars. Yep. And like, he was like, it's a bike? I'm like, yes. He's like, you mean a motorbike? I'm like, no. It's like a bike, yes. With 2 wheels, yes. $4,000, yes. Okay, I'm coming. And then he came and like had to explain to him like why it's blah, 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 blah. So yeah, the bike in China and most Chinese people's perception of the bike now, is not great. And I think that's something that the Chinese bike brands should really try working on changing. But also, if the Western bike brands, if they really want to get big here, I think they need to help change that mentality too. Yeah,
I think that's where you're going to be a middleman there, Joe. Like, I think you're going to be a catalyst of change in the industry, and I think you're going to become an important figure in cycling in the next decade. You're in a hot seat right now, and things are changing with the internet and Corona or bike racing, bike packing, gravel bikes, and stuff like that. It's and people becoming more people just shopping online. People shopping online more and more. So I think you're in an interesting position because you have interesting contacts and sit in an interesting and you speak language as well, and you're a bike geek, so there's not many people in the world like you.
it's pretty, yeah. Like I never realized what you just said until like a few months ago and stuff. Like uh, again, this is going to sound like a bit clickbaity because I can't really say the whole conversation. But the people who I've ended up in the same room as, just because they also do deals with this factory or because they're trying to do something in China, it's pretty mental. Like China is definitely, like you say, it's a hotbed. Everyone wants a piece of the pie, and yeah, everyone and anyone is here trying to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's yeah, well, it's
I heard
times.
you mentioned gravel. Just, do you do any gravel yourself, or?
Well, I started with sort of, BMX riding, mountain biking back in the 90s and 80s, and we'd go on fire roads and dirt tracks, and so I often ride my road bike on gravel. I do have a gravel bike, which is basically just a fancy name for a cyclocross bike, but with a few more bottle mounts on it and better tyre clearance. But yeah, I like riding all sorts of different bikes. I think gravel seems to be taken off a lot. I see a lot of people riding gravel bikes to work at the moment, even though they're just riding on the tarmac. But that seems to be the biggest sector right now, gravel bikes. What do you think?
This is yeah, like again, this is one of those things where, so even I don't think I've explained it very well so far, but like the people who are really into their road bikes in China, like they're pretty similar to people in the West. They've got power meters, they're doing their training, like it's like anyone in the West.
Yeah.
There's just not that many of them. But the gravel scene that's taken over in the West just does not exist here. And I think the main reason is that, ironically, China, the infrastructure is too good. Like, there are no gravel roads left. Like, China just tarmacs everything. Anywhere you go in, there's a 6-lane road. For me to find a gravel road, I don't think I could find a gravel road within like 50 k's of where I am.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm next to giant mountains. But in the mountains, they'll tunnel, they'll bridge, they'll do crazy engineering to put a nice pristine road. Wow. Which, as a road cyclist, you're loving it because so many switchbacks everywhere and everything. But if you did want to get into gravel, there's nowhere to ride gravel.
And the roads are generally too good to need fatter tires.
Yeah.
It's road territory.
Things like potholes and stuff. Like, potholes don't really exist here. There'll be like bad repair jobs on some places, but I think the roads here are better than the UK roads for sure.
That's what I hear. Same in Thailand. The roads are better there than Australia. Once you're outside of Bangkok, have you been in Thailand before?
No. So now that I live in the expat life or whatever, whenever I have free time, I go back home. So it's really hard to explore other places that are around here. So Asia, I've only been to Indonesia and to China.
Yeah, wow. Oh, that's very interesting. Where do you see China, cycling in China going? Like, is the road scene getting bigger, or recreational cycling, fitness cycling?
It's interesting because I'd say a big difference here is that the marketing of the Western companies, it doesn't really reach here, so they can't really brainwash people. So lots of people are into road bikes, but I've got friends who are riding like first generation Cannondale Super Sixes.
Yeah, wow.
With 105 from however many years ago. And at the time he bought it, it was really expensive, whatever. But you do a little bit of basic maintenance, and that bike's going to last you forever.
It is.
And so there's this thing now that most of the cyclists in China, they're the nerds who they always want the latest stuff and stuff. But most people, they've already got their road bike. It's got rim brakes. It's like 7 kilos more or less. Yep. There's not really much that can get better. That's
right. In Australia, it's all aero disc bikes at the moment. Aero disc and gravel.
Yep.
Yeah, I reckon that original Super 6 would ride faster and lighter than the Super 6 disc at the moment, I reckon.
Yeah, and nothing like the original Super 6, 2008 decent bike
came out. It was a light bike.
You got a good memory for these years.
Yeah, just bike geek. Bike geek.
Yeah,
What's the most popular sport in China at the moment? Is it soccer or running or
basketball is
right.
king in
Basketball.
China.
Yeah, basketball.
Yeah.
That's true. And what about fitness? Do people walk over there, or in the afternoons or evenings? Is it exercise mindset?
Yeah. I think people are probably on average. I'd say on average, people are more into fitness than in the West. But I'd say the people who are into fitness maybe not into it as much as people in the West. Like I feel like, and again, I probably don't have a very good perspective of people in the West, but I feel like people in the West who are into fitness, like they really go at it hard, and it becomes a big part of their life. But in China, like almost everyone is into fitness, but not to the same level. Like they'll just do a run like once a week on their own, and they'll use an app to track it, and they'll share it to their friends or whatever. But they don't really make it into a hobby and try to beat their times and stuff. They just do it just to stay fit.
Yeah, gotcha. And is Strava's taken off a bit there, or?
So it's pretty messed up because Google is blocked in China, and so Strava, the app, relies on the Google Play services to work. So you have to do a whole bunch of like side loading of apps and stuff to get Strava working on your phone. And even so Garmin did something shady where this is a really, really long story, and I'm trying to think of the most condensed way to say it. Basically, if you're offering a service in China, you have to make everything on the servers available for the Chinese government to inspect at any time.
Yes.
And obviously with Garmin, you've got everyone's basically the home address and the work address. And so if Garmin wanted to operate in China and abroad, then that would mean that the Chinese government needs access to the servers and then have access to the home addresses of basically everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And so before this became a thing and some journalist wrote something up and Garmin would have got effed, Garmin did a thing where they split all their services in two. So when you sign up for Garmin now in China, you have to choose if you're like a Chinese resident or a non-Chinese resident.
Yeah.
And if you're a Chinese resident, you get put on special Chinese servers. But these Chinese accounts can't sync with Strava.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
I mean, so fair play to Garmin for like keeping government's noses out of things they shouldn't have their noses in.
Yeah.
But I think it was pretty bad of them not to let Chinese users sync with Strava for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's interesting. What about if you just had Strava on your computer and use a VPN and just plug your Brighton into the computer? That'll work, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So lots of the Chinese guys it's easy to get around it. You can just set up your Garmin account as a non-Chinese Garmin account.
Yeah.
And then so you sync your Garmin to your Garmin Connect, or you sync your Wahoo to the Wahoo app, or whatever, and then that'll sync to Strava, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you're opening Strava on your PC without a VPN on, all the maps are just grey because the maps come from the Google servers.
That's right. Yeah, interesting. No, that's good. I reckon we'll wrap it here, and we'll do some more questions another time because I still got more information. But I appreciate it, man. Very, very much so. All right, I'll just pause the convo. We'll just have a little chat afterwards. Thanks again, Joe. If you want to see more of Joe,
thank you.
Just type in Joe. Type in China Cycling on YouTube, and we'll have Joe back again. I'm sure you'll have some questions. So write them down below, and we'll get back into it.
Thank you for having me.
That's cool, man.